All right. All right. My name is Carrie Marsh Dixon. I'm the Executive Secretary of the Parks Commission. And before we start the hearing, we'll have everyone introduce themselves. Max, please.
Max for Diamond, Tree Warden, Arborist, City of Boston.
Todd.
Todd Meesor, the Director of Urban Forestry for the City of Boston Parks Department.
Jill.
Good morning, Jill Zick, Chief Landscape Architect for the Parks Department.
And Calliope.
Calliope Marsky, Assistant for Urban Forestry.
Great. This is a request to remove 2 public shade trees as follows. 1 pear tree measuring 22 inches in diameter on the Rutland Sq side of this location, and 1 swamp white oak tree measuring 2 inches in diameter on the West Newton side of this location. And I realize that the agenda is missing the address of 695 Tremont Street. Okay, if you'd like to start your presentation, please.
Great. Leah, if you want to pull up the presentation, I can get us going. Good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Porras. I am the project manager on the architecture side, representing UTIL today. With us, we have our colleagues and landscape architects for this project, Leah Roeder, Michelle Crowley, and Echo Chen. Just wanted to give everyone a little bit of an introduction to the project that we will be talking about, and that is impacting the request and why we're here today. So this is what you see on the screen, the South End Library, which is a new neighborhood branch for the Boston Public Library system. We are working for the Public Facilities Department and the Boston Public Library in order to build a new ground-up construction, 2-story, 16,000 square feet building, more or less in the same footprint as the existing branch, which has now been closed for about 4 or 5 years due to 2 catastrophic floodings that have caused severe damage to the building and the building systems. It's worth saying that we've been in the design process for a little bit over a year. Throughout that time, we have had multiple community meetings, 6 to be exact, where we've been hearing from the community on the various emphasis that they want to put on the project and the different priorities, including preserving the majority of the library park area, which is that open space adjacent to our building. This area is owned by the City of Boston, by the Public Facilities Department, not the Boston Parks. Although it is maintained to a certain extent by this entity. So as part of the process, we have been maintaining the footprint of that new construction fairly limited in order to preserve the majority of the trees. That goes to the utility connections as well. We've been carefully working with our consultant team in order to minimize the impact that these these utility connections to the new building will have on the existing trees. But the reason we're here today is because there are 2 particular priorities and improvements that we want to do as part of this project. One is the utility connection for stormwater infiltration, which is located just outside of the park area, which is particularly important to the site due to the history of flooding. And then as well, the improvements to the West Newton on the right-hand side of the screen here. This particular sidewalk is fairly inaccessible due to the uneven surface. So one of our goals for this project is going to be replacing the paved zone with a more accessible surface, which would impact the tree noted as number 2. So with that, I will pass it along to our colleagues from Crowley Cottrell to walk us through the rest of the project, and we'll look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you.
So number 1 on the upper left side of the screen, I guess just I'll orient you. So the new footprint of the library is this dashed red line. The solid black line bounds the existing footprint of the library. Rutland Street on the left side of the page, Tremont on the bottom, and West Newton on the right. So in the upper left portion of your screen, you see the number 1 and the existing Callery pear tree. Part of this project was getting Bartlett tree experts to produce a tree preservation report. They included this tree in the report, and in their estimation, this tree is in poor condition. In addition to it being in poor condition, it is in the path or very close to the path, definitely impacting the roots of the tree, path of a new storm drainage line. So that is why we are requesting to remove and then actually replace this Callery pear tree. That's number 1. Number 2, on West Newton Street, as Claudia described, this whole sidewalk will be repaved due to its impassable condition. And the tree that we have currently on that West Newton Street is a white oak that has somehow been quite badly damaged and is now stunted in its growth. It's at 2 inches, but it's missing a central leader. We think that all of the disruption associated with the sidewalk gives us a good opportunity to replace this tree with one that can thrive. Captured on the left is an image of that existing Callery pear tree. And in the center is just a screenshot from the tree report from Bartlett experts, the preservation report, identifying that Callery pear as in the condition class is poor, suitability for preservation is low. So for these reasons, we are requesting these removals. I'm happy to continue and show the replacements. So the proposal currently is to replace that Callery pear shown on the upper left side or the northwest with a black tupelo tree. And then to replace which will provide a broad, shade for the street and the sidewalk. On the West Newton side, we're proposing a replacement of a Franz Fontaine hornbeam, which has a columnar habit. It is in relatively close proximity to the building, so we want to be mindful and selected a species that would have minimal conflict with the building. Both of these trees would go in at 2.5 to 3 inch caliper, ball and burlap. And in both cases, we are proposing expanding the tree pits to be to follow the Boston standard. So on the northwest, that's a 4 by 6 foot tree pit using the Boston City detail, and on the east, that's a 3 by 8 foot tree pit following the detail. So on our site, this is the standard detail, and just noting the adjacency of the new standard brick paving, which is brick mortared on a concrete base. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Max, do you have any comments or questions?
Sorry about that. First, I'll state and say that I inspected the trees. I agree the pear tree is in poor condition, but it is not in poor enough condition that we would remove it without holding a public tree hearing. The swamp white oak did receive some sort of pruning cut that was made at some time that removed a central leader, but a secondary leader has formed and the tree is still alive and healthy, which is why we need to have a public tree hearing. In terms of replacement, will the proposed tree be on top of a storm drain, or is it like offset from it so that we don't have any future impacts that would cause issues for the building?
Great question. So we are showing it offset from the storm drain line.
Okay, perfect. And then where the swamp white oak is going to be removed, is there any ability to plant additional trees there? other than just the one that is being replaced?
In the planting zone along the curb of West Newton
Yeah.
to add additional tree
Yeah,
pits?
would it be possible to add, one or two other tree pits?
Yes, as far as I know, it hasn't been carried in the project budget, but there's certainly opportunity for that. It's a great spot.
Okay.
At least I think easily 2 more trees could fit on that sidewalk.
Yeah, even if there was just, tree pits left for us, that would be appreciated.
I see. Yeah, we need to just review utilities and then we can identify locations and build out the pit. Is that what you're
Yeah,
proposing?
that would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
Well, I just want to echo Mac's requests for additional tree pits on West Newton. I think, again, the reason we haven't just created some new tree pits there is because of the surface of the sidewalk. So if you're going through the process of redoing that,
Yeah,
it would be great to include
absolutely.
additional tree pits. And then the second question, or I guess the actual question, is about the subsurface conditions. The city standard now we do have a standard that allows for or accounts for structural soil to allow for better rooting conditions for the trees, even beyond the open tree pit. Will that be a part of this project?
So we have not at this point carried structural soils. The brick detail that we're using is a concrete set mortared brick, and we don't have irrigation on either side. So we were concerned that there would be not sufficient opportunity to provide water for the trees or aeration, considering the paving around them. So if I'm understanding, you're proposing that we would put structural soils in the perimeter around the trees to expand the root medium and area. So that certainly is a possibility, but that detail usually requires aeration and irrigation, and we don't have irrigation to these trees. So for that reason, in our experience, the structural soil has not been successful in providing, that the tree roots don't necessarily expand into the soil if there is no air and water access to those soils.
Well, again, my question was if it was considered, and thank you for providing the information about considering it. And that's all for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jill?
So maybe just to tag on to Todd's question, was any kind of permeable pavement considered as a part of the project? I know that there's brick pavement here. I would imagine this very well may be included in a historic district. Just trying to understand maybe some contextual aspects of the project that might have informed the design.
So we did consider permeable pavement, but our understanding was that the city standard for an accessible sidewalk in this condition was to use a detail over the concrete base, so that to eliminate. We just understood that to be the standard detail for this project.
I'll also add that we are indeed in a landmarked area. We are under the jurisdiction of the South End Landmarks Commission, to whom we've presented this project, and including the sidewalk improvements.
So the expectation is to replace the brick sidewalk with brick sidewalk.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say typically our Disabilities Commission doesn't like brick, but I understand that they are, they're deferential within landmark districts to replace brick with brick. Obviously, I think the best condition for street trees is to provide some kind of permeable sidewalk and some kind of medium below to expand the critical root zone to the extent possible. I mean, a 3x8 or a 4x6 pit, although being the city standard, I think we've updated our details to incorporate kind of newer aspects of, we want these street trees to be successful long term. So where new projects are bringing different opportunities, we'd like to see, better than minimum standards. But I also understand, you're very late in the game here. And clearly it sounds like your budget may not have considered some of those opportunities.
Well, I think there is, I mean, I think we could ask about the option of structural soils in a kind of furniture zone band along this edge, particularly if we're going to integrate 2 additional tree pits. There it seems to me if we can get approval for a permeable solution that would only pass over the structural soils in this kind of zone at the far east, that is a possibility, because then there would still be it would all look like brick paving to meet the landmarks concerns, and I think the concrete in the walking zone to meet the Disability Commission's concerns. So that I do think there's an opportunity on the east side for that to happen. We have a very constrained site on the west, so I don't think there's a great opportunity for that, unfortunately, with that tree. But we could look, yeah. So I think this is a great place for us to consider this.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
just to chime in quickly,
Yeah.
That has not been considered in the budget, so that we'll have to be taking that back to the public facilities.
Understood. I think the idea is to create better conditions with new tree plantings and to the best of the project's ability to reconstitute some of the lost caliper inches, in particular in that number 1 location. We're losing a larger tree. I understand it's maybe not in the best of health, but the idea, it's certainly from the planning perspective in the Parks Department, is to try to maintain canopy or reconstitute canopy where it's lost. So I think that would be great if you could explore that as an opportunity. So thank you.
Max, I have a question regarding the trees that are shown along Tremont Street. They appear to be rather small, but do you have any concerns about construction impacts?
Yeah, those trees were in their tree protection document that they provided to us.
Okay.
So yeah, those are to be protected during construction. As far as I'm aware, Lee, that's correct. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. And then the other question I had, Max, is would you like to see a plan showing, because I'm sorry, I don't remember the streets on the side, but to the east on the side where number 2 is, the tree is going to be replaced and 2 other pits will be put in. I'm not sure what the dimensions of those pits will be, but do you want to see a detail that shows where those pits will be located and the size of them, et cetera?
Yeah, Leo. Yeah, if that's something that's possible once you talk to the project team and look at the budgets and everything like that, that would be appreciated.
As well as where, sorry, just and as well as where number 1 is going to be relocated to get around the storm drain. I'm sorry, the storm water drainage. So do you want to see that also shown?
Yeah, I think that's fairly clear enough based on, yeah, Leah pointing out, yeah, the storm drain is to the side of that. But yeah, if we could just get any sort of documentation and commitment to the ones on West Newton, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely. Those would follow the 3x8
Yep,
size and detail that we have.
correct.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions from the Parks Department folks? All right. Clappy, are there any public members?
There are two, if one appears to be on phone. I don't know if they can raise their hand, but for the other attendee, if you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. I do not see anybody raising their hands.
Perfect. And
Max, can you do your?
yep, I did not receive any letters of opposition for the removal of these trees either. Based on this, we have 2 weeks from today's hearing to issue our letter of determination. If the removal of the trees are approved after the hearing, the proponent will then need to send a check for the value of the trees to the Parks Department. And then once we receive the check, we will issue a notice to proceed for the project team to remove said trees. After construction, if there's room in the public right-of-way, as we've spoken about during this hearing, the project team can install new trees here and recoup some or all of the replacement bond. The Parks Department will reimburse the project team based on how many inches of DBH are replaced within the public right-of-way. The reimbursement is dependent on the trees being alive and healthy for 2 years after the date of replacement. At that time, if the project team asks for reimbursement, we will provide it based on the size of those trees. So any other questions from the project team?
None at this time.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You'll hear from us within 2 weeks, and at this point we can end the hearing.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.